Right. So that's the Rus. So what do we know about them? As I said, they're seeking a trade route south. The first mention we have of them in our part of the world is in the 840s, 850s, 860s. They're mentioned as Scandinavians engaged in the slave trade in order to gain silver. As I mentioned before, we have these silver hoards, which is part of the evidence for what they were doing. They are still nomads, right? They're marine nomads. They move mainly by sea, but they're nomads. And one of the big underlying transitions here, I've emphasized it in terms of slavery versus peasantry, right? But another way to think about this is nomadism versus settlement. When the people in power are still moving, that's one situation. When the people in power settle and build cities or take over someone else's cities, that's a different situation. So what the Vikings did was they overwhelmed sedentary civilizations. They took cities. They negotiated trade terms, which is what you do. That's just normal. What's special is that they end up settling in Kiev, and that's when we get a state. I'll talk about that. So as I mentioned, they tried to go down the Volga River, which is in the middle of Russia. They were blocked by the Bulgars, the Muslim Bulgars, and then they went down the Dnipro. Then we're setting up the history where we are. The people who dominated Kiev and Ukraine at the time were the Khazars. The Khazars are tough to figure out. We have no written documents at all that are directly from their state. It was a multi-ethnic and multi-confessional realm, which had some Christians and some Jews and some Muslims in it, but also had lots of non-monotheistic believers in it as well. The Khazars came to an end in a way which is also incredibly confusing. There was rivalry among the various monotheisms about which monotheism they all converted to, and it's actually not clear they converted to any of them. There's a beautiful novel, though, about this called The Dictionary of the Khazars by a Croatian writer called Passage, which I don't know if you read Choose Your Own Adventure stories as a kid, but it's a novel. It's a novel which is set up as three dictionaries: a Christian, a Jewish, and a Muslim, where you kind of choose in what order you read it. It's very beautiful, but it gets across the kind of lack of narrative that we actually have about the Khazars. We have very little.